Welcome back to the show once again. Now, art collection for a lot of people seems almost unattainable. It's very intimidating. It's very expensive. We are about to blow the doors off both of those ideas right now.
Why not? We are joined now by the president and director of the Elliott Lewis Gallery, Ted Lederer, is joining us now. How are you?
I'm terrific. Welcome, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Is learning why your gallery is called what it is. What is the answer to that question?
The Elliott Lewis Gallery, it's named after my son, who's 16 years old. Elliott is his first name. Lewis is his middle name. Yeah. The gallery's, we've been around 11 years, so we named the gallery when he was 5 after him.
And what does he think of it as a teenager?
Oh, he loves it. It's a little bit, he's at that stage where what Dad does, he doesn't want to do, but he's starting to make the turn, and he's asking me about, how do you do this? How do you do that? So he's starting to make that turn.
Well, and your story is fascinating, but I mean, I want to address the questions that we started out with, because people have this idea of art collecting, that it is unattainable, that it is intimidating, and it really isn't. And that's what we want to get out to people today a little bit, isn't it? Right.
And so let me tell you a couple of stories just around that.
Yeah.
In New York City, there's a couple by the name of Herb and Dorothy Vogel, and they amassed. Now, Dorothy Vogel was a librarian with the Brooklyn Public Library, and Herb, her husband, was a postal worker. He never graduated from high school. They lived on, they lived on her salary, and on his salary they bought art.
And there they are in the picture. You
my goodness.
Look at them and think, art collectors.
Art collectors, not ordinary art collectors. These people, on a postal worker's salary, collected one of the greatest art collections of mid-20th century American art. It was massive. They donated, they had something like 4,780 pieces of art by the most brilliant artists. They donated 2,000 pieces to the National Gallery in Washington, D.C. When the gallery came to their rent-controlled apartment in Manhattan, this tiny little flat, they came away with truckload after truckload after truckload of art. It was absolutely phenomenal.
What were their rules for collecting? Because everybody thinks it's out of, you know, you have to know all this stuff, but they had simple rules.
They had 2 rules. It had to fit in their apartment. And they had to be a
rent-controlled New York apartment, which I can imagine was quite small.
And they had to be able to afford it. But they made friends with artists. They went to all the openings, and they collected art that people, it was minimalist art, and some of it was conceptualist art, and then later a little bit post-minimalist art. But a lot of it is not the kind of work that maybe the average person would like. Yeah. So they were able to get to artists when they could buy things in the hundreds of dollars that later became worth many, many tens of thousands of dollars and more.
And I think within that is that central idea of becoming an art collector, in that you don't have to like what other people like. You really, there is art for everyone. You will find something that appeals to you if you look hard enough.
Absolutely. And I have never met an art collector, whether it's the guy that works at the Lookout as a cook, literally, to the wealthiest person that I've dealt with that buys work that they don't love. Yeah. You buy what you love. And that's the first and the most important rule. Buy what you love.
And if you go to art shows, if you go to galleries, if you go to art schools, you will find these people, you will find these artists at a stage of their career that it's available for price point, and it's available stylistically for what you want.
Right.
As well.
So, you know, I always tell people, if you're buying contemporary art, buy it the way you would buy your furniture or your clothing or anything that you love. Buy it because you love it. Never mind, is it going to increase in value? Yeah. And every once in a while, you might stumble upon something that will increase in value.
A little bit of a gem. Right. Now, we have a piece right here. Tell us about this work and who it's by.
All right, so the reason I brought this in, it's by Laura Muntz, who's a historic Canadian artist. She was important. I think she was the first woman Canadian artist that really became well known outside of Canada. Laura Muntz is known for doing children. Young women, mothers and daughters. That's what she's known for. And this piece...
So this is very different.
This is very different than what she's known for. But it came to my attention, it wasn't very expensive. It was, I don't remember, it was maybe $1,000. It wasn't a lot of money.
And is that because it's outside of her usual stylistic?
Absolutely, because I mean, Laura Muntz, I think in 2006, there was a piece of hers that went for close to $90,000 at auction.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing children, we're seeing sailboats.
We're seeing a sailboat.
Yeah.
So, but the beauty of this, and this is just one of these little things, it doesn't make it valuable, but it was in this ratty old frame. I took it to the framers. We took it out of the frame. We turned it around, and on the back was...
Oh, you're kidding me.
Was the beginning
So it's a sketch.
It was the beginning of a sketch. Now, obviously, she didn't develop it. She didn't finish it. She chose to leave it as it was. It doesn't make the piece enormously valuable, but it's just one of those
What
little...
an interesting story, though.
No kidding. And these kinds of things happen all the time.
Yeah. How do you find that people collect? Because I know we've talked to people that are collectors before, and sometimes it's by art. I mean, there's something really pleasurable about finding an artist at a younger stage of his career and doing that vertical collection. Like, as they go through the changes in their career, the inevitable changes,
right,
you collect with them as they go, or styles, or whatever it is. How do most people do it?
Well,
is there a way?
Yeah, there's as many ways as there are people. I know people that only collect women artists from the 1960s to the 1980s.
Right.
I know people that want Canadian art, and they want one or two of everybody. I know other people that buy only certain artists, and then they buy deep into that artist.
Is it good to have a theme for what you're collecting, or is it just going back to going what you love?
Well, what you love, clearly. I think once you become serious serious enough at some point, you start to hone in on where you want to focus the collection. And it could be anything, literally anything.
Well, and Ted, my wife and I mean, years before we bought our first piece of art together when we were younger, spent so much time just walking through galleries and having a coffee in our hand and just going through and looking. And the funny thing that I found, because we were in that very famous stretch in Granville, is how approachable everybody there was. They didn't care whether you were buying or not. They wanted to talk about the artist. They wanted to introduce you to their work. And it's just fun to be around it and talk about it.
Yeah, now, Vancouver's pretty good like that. Most of the galleries, I won't say that every single gallery is approachable, because there are a couple that aren't, but most of the galleries are very approachable. You walk into New York in some of the galleries, and they won't look at you unless they...
Or they won't buzz you in.
Or they won't...
Well, and the Elliott Lewis Gallery is in the new burgeoning, growing part of town for the art scene, especially. I mean, for pretty much everything, but for art as well.
Yeah, on First Avenue, just east of Main.
Yeah.
But you know, Michael and Fiona, art is like a muscle, right? So the more you exercise your visual acuity, the stronger that muscle becomes. And so you don't need to know a lot to start. You just need to be willing to look and to learn.
Yeah.
And gallery owners, for the most part, enjoy it.
Yeah.
And just love it for what it is.
Well, thank you so much. A little Art Collecting 101 for you with Ted Lederer. Of course, as we mentioned, you can visit the Elliott Lewis Gallery. The website is on the screen for you right now. If you want to pay them a visit and look at some of their beautiful works.
Be the Vogels. Go out there and start collecting art, just stuff that you love,
cool.
and
they're
find
so cute.
everything. And yeah, they're the cutest little couple. It's unbelievable.
Thanks again, Ted. We're going to take a quick break.